Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut here at Carver Hawkeye Arena following Nebraska's 57-52 loss to the Hawkeyes here on Tuesday night. And this was a game that, once again, was defined by physicality and maybe more so Nebraska's lack thereof. Iowa kind of was what you thought they were going to be. Bennett Sturtz pretty much did everything for him offensively. He had 25 of their 57 points. He took 22 of their 51 shots and pretty much was the heart and soul of everything they did on that end of the floor. The difference was that the way the Hawkeyes controlled the game with their defensive physicality. It started right out of the gate where, this wasn't a surprise to Nebraska. This is kind of Iowa's MO under Ben McCollum, where they kind of run a take the air out of the ball offense, lean heavily on Sturtz, and then play really aggressive defense that challenges you on the ball, contest passing lanes, denies entry passes, and just makes life really difficult to operate in the half court. And so that was their plan going in, and it worked to perfection because Nebraska fell right into it, where the off-ball movement just wasn't there. Iowa was just up in their faces, grabbing, holding, pushing, bumping them, and Nebraska just didn't respond. And they weren't the stronger team, and they let Iowa push them around quite a bit. And Price Sanford, as you would expect in a game like this, was the focal point, clearly, for Iowa. And he got 5 points early, but there was a stretch from about the 14-minute mark in the first half to about the 14-minute mark in the second half where he didn't make a field goal. He only made 3 shots over 37 minutes of work, and that's a testament to the way Iowa was defending him and the way that they kind of followed what has now been a reoccurring game plan for Nebraska's opponents, basically going back to the Illinois game, the rematch at Lincoln, where Illinois was allowed to do a lot of those, holds and bumps and grabs, and Nebraska did not respond at all. They took Price out of it, and the Huskers really struggled to find that flow offensively. And I think teams are starting to just test what officials are going to let them get away with, and that's how this league is. That's kind of the MO for what the Big Ten is, especially this time of year. It's the most physical league in the country, and some might argue it comes at the detriment of their success in March when games aren't officiated the same way in postseason play. But for the here and now, that's kind of how you win in this conference, by being the tougher team and fighting through stuff like that. When teams want to get up on you and try to bully you around, you got to answer. And Nebraska just has not answered nearly well enough. I mean, the 3 losses, the Michigan game I think is a bit of an outlier because I thought Nebraska did match the toughness, especially given their roster situation and that team and that venue. Toughness was not the issue for me. They were just undermanned. But the Illinois game, the Purdue game, certainly tonight against Iowa, and I'll even throw Northwestern. I mean, Nebraska won that game by 19 points, but for the first half of that game, Northwestern set the tone defensively. They were doing what all those other teams, or the last 3, Illinois, Purdue, and now Iowa, had done. They did the exact same thing, where they challenged every pass, they got up in Nebraska's face, and they forced a season-high 18 turnovers from the Huskers. And so the book is out right now on what you need to do defensively to shut down what had been a prolific Nebraska offense. And you pair kind of teams focusing so hard on Price and taking him out of the equation off the ball and not letting him to move and do all the things to create open looks. But then you got some guys now that are supposed to be, sometimes you're plan A, but certainly plan B, C, D, that really aren't bringing it right now. Rink Mast is at the forefront of that discussion. Nebraska needs more from him, man. He had 8 points and 8 rebounds, but 3 turnovers to 1 assist over 32 minutes. He was 0 for 3 from 3-point range, 4 of 10 from the field. Like, that's not enough for a guy that is so important to what Nebraska does offensively. If they're gonna sit there and challenge Nebraska's players like that on the perimeter, like, you got to have an inside game. That's how you answer it. If they're devoting so much attention to defending you beyond the 3-point line, the paint should be wide open. And that's where Rink, like he did against Rutgers, he was so good at that in that Rutgers game that they didn't go to him nearly enough inside. And when he did get the ball in the paint, he generally scored, or at least got high percentage looks. And for whatever reason, either Nebraska wasn't able to get him the ball, or he wasn't positioning himself to get the ball in the paint enough to take some of that pressure off of the perimeter. But Rink wasn't the only one who struggled. Jamarcus Lawrence, again, he had 11 points, second highest score, but 4 turnovers to 4 assists. He was 3 of 6 from the field. He drew 5 fouls, but this is a guy that, helped him, pretty much carried him at Indiana. So he's capable of doing a lot more than that, especially when teams are devoting so much attention to Price and doing the things they're doing to Rink to take him out of his game. Like, you got to have somebody else step up and take some of the weight off of those other players. And, just look at the starting lineup. Berke, he was minus 12 over about 21 minutes. He scored 4 points, only 2 rebounds. He blocked a couple shots, but, the plus minus there, he had the second lowest plus minus, second only to Cale Jacobson, who was minus 13. Like, that's a starter that you're not getting anything out of. Who else? Sam, who's been kind of steady Eddie for him all season long, he only had 4 points. He did have 5 assists and only 1 turnover, a couple steals, but he was 2 of 8 from the field, over 4 from 3. Did not draw a single foul. And so, when it comes, and he committed 4 of his own. So, that's kind of what I'm talking about, where, you need guys to answer the call when teams are clearly trying to defend you a certain way. You have to be able to adjust, and you have to find other players that can step up when, Price is a marked man right now. And unfortunately, teams are being allowed to be really physical and aggressive with him, and he's having a really difficult time combating that and getting the space to get shots off even. There was points where he couldn't even get an open look because of how much
Iowa was bullying him off the ball. And, again, that's Nebraska needs to do a better job of trying to get more flow. Again, you can only do so much with the officials, but the way that you do that is by having other guys step up and forcing opponents to not be able to devote so much attention to Price. So speaking of Price, even though he had 13 points in a loss, it was a weird night for him. First game back in Carver Hawkeye, spent his first 2 seasons here as an Iowa Hawkeye, and it's no surprise that he did not get a warm reception in his return to Iowa City. When you transfer away to a conference rival, that's generally the case. But they were on him from start to finish. It wasn't just the boos during the starting lineup or when he took the floor. The student section was dropping F-bombs on him, doing the F's Price Sanford. I think they said that more than they said, "Let's go Hawks." So, it was an interesting dynamic for him, I'm sure. He downplayed it after the game, said he didn't hear it. I find that hard to believe, since pretty much anyone within a mile radius of this arena probably heard those chants. But I think he was doing his best to block it out, and wouldn't credit that for affecting his play at all. And then the other part, it wasn't just the emotions of coming back to this joint, but it was the fact that his second 3-pointer that was his last made, one of his last made field goals with about 14 minutes left to tie the game at 39. That broke Kerry Cohorn's single season 3-point record of 89. Price now has 90, and he's in sole possession for the most 3-pointers ever made by a Husker in a single season. So an incredible achievement, especially with how many more games they have left on the schedule. I mean, he's going to smash that record, and he could be holding on to that one for a long time. But, you just wish that it could have come under much better circumstances for him and for his team. But just another disappointing night. And this is a Nebraska team that's now lost 4 of their last 6. They started 20-0, and things have kind of flipped on them a little bit, where they've been playing okay defense, I felt like. I mean, that was really the only reason they were in this game, was because of the way they defended. And there was the same thing with Northwestern, with how bad they were giving the ball away and how much the offense was struggling. The defense is what kept them in it. So I feel like that end of the floor has been okay, and they're doing more than enough to win games. As Fred Hoiberg said, when you hold a team to 57 points at home, you should have a pretty good shot at winning. The problem is on offense. And again, it's how teams are defending them and how they're being allowed to defend them, but also Nebraska's response to that physicality. And that's got to change, and it's got to change quickly. The good news is they have some favorable home games coming up. Penn State, Maryland, talk about 2 more get-right games, but Nebraska's had get-right games. They got right against Rutgers. They supposedly got right against Northwestern, and they immediately followed it with disappointing losses. So they're just kind of in survival mode right now, not just to finish the season strong, but to try to preserve as high of a seed in the NCAA tournament as they can, to try to preserve a triple bye in the Big Ten tournament. Those are very much up in the air right now. So Nebraska has work to do. You absolutely have to take care of business at home against these inferior teams that are coming in here. And then that LA trip now just becomes enormous. You at minimum have to split that trip with USC, UCLA, ideally win both, and then come home with a rematch against Iowa on senior night. And so there's opportunity for Nebraska to make some ground back up that it's lost over this last couple weeks. But for that to happen, they've got to figure it out on offense. They've got to figure it out with their physicality, and they got to figure it out with their toughness. And until that happens, whether it's Maryland or UCLA or Iowa coming into Pinnacle Bank Arena, Nebraska's going to have a real hard time because, again, the book is out on how to stop them. What are the Huskers going to do about it? That's all I got for right now. Thanks again to our sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours, Slim Chickens, and we'll be back on the air, or not on the air, on here, on Saturday when Penn State comes to town, Pinnacle Bank Arena. So tune in for pregame thoughts and postgame analysis on Courtside with Rob and Washut.